Today on Investigate TV Plus Weekend, artificial patriots, fake generals, and real victims. How to spot fakes on social media that have cost some people their life savings.
And I just broke down crying. I really let my family down.
Plus, police videotape most interactions with the public, but those recordings largely go unwatched. Now new tech aims to change that.
If it can sense a pattern of behavior from an officer, whether he's talking down to the public or anything like that, it can be addressed a lot quicker.
And a mother's warning after a close encounter with a scammer who cloned her teenage daughter's voice.
And this man gets on the phone and he's like, listen here, I've got your daughter. This is how it's gonna go down. You call the police, you call anybody. I'm gonna pop her stomach so full of drugs, I'm gonna have my way with her and I'll drop her off in Mexico.
Investigate TV Plus Weekend starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV Plus Weekend. I'm Lee Zurich. You likely have your phone in your hand right now. If you saw this photo of a patriotic family on social media, would you give it a like? The photo of a military family was generated by artificial intelligence. Reporter Brendan Key found overseas scammers lurking in the comments, ultimately trying to get your money.
Soldiers finally coming home. Combat wounded troops asking for a birthday wish. These images draw tens of thousands of likes, comments, and shares on social media. A semi loaded with American flags, a jetliner full of heroes flying to a D-Day commemoration. But look closer at the veterans' hands. Their plane has no aisle. High-ranking uniformed children in wheelchairs. A soldier saves the hobbly, while those returning troops are in cars with only one seat. And the flag semi is on the wrong side of the interstate. Babies, sometimes in body armor and combat medals, outrank their parents who have 3 arms. This two-headed mother is with the U.S. Army. These images are all AI generated, and they flood pages with names like Proudly American. We discovered these patriotic Facebook pages have U.S. addresses that don't exist and are actually managed overseas in foreign countries.
This is cyber warfare.
It is.
Douglas Frazier retired from the U.S. Air Force as a 4-star general.
Carry on, please.
But he can also be found responding to comments on these AI images, telling older women they're pretty.
It's fake. I have found nothing I can do to make it stop.
And you've tried.
And I've tried.
We found multiple General Frazier clones on social media, claiming to be widowers looking for love.
How many General Douglas Fraziers are on Facebook alone at any given time?
Well, my wife has recently checked and she says right now there are 300 plus.
300 plus General Douglas Fraziers, and not one of them is real.
I'm not on Facebook.
My partner, my soulmate, my darling wife, Rena.
These fake General Fraziers are widowers. They're looking for love.
All throughout this time, I've been happily married. My wife's been alive.
You don't know me? Tell your husband, text me back, I'm his wife.
So she thinks she's his wife?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm his wife.
Impersonators of real U.S. generals appear all over the comments, many labeled government official. We scrolled through hundreds of Facebook accounts claiming to be the chief of staff of the Army and never reached the end after 5 minutes. These generals directly ask widows to friend them.
That was my downfall right from the beginning, believing the first person that talked to me, that he loved me, that he was going to make a wonderful life for us.
Jeannie Wasserman thought she had fallen in love with a military officer stationed in the Middle East. After a year-long online romance, he told her he needed money for a chopper ride out of Syria.
How much money did you end up sending him in total?
I think it comes out to $138,000.
You handed more than $130,000 to a scammer when you thought he was a military officer who loved you.
Yeah.
This was your life savings he took.
Yeah.
Was it everything?
It was everything. I just broke down crying. I really let my family down.
We obtained computer files labeled the Nigerian Scammer's Playbook that we verified as authentic. Page after page of background stories, love letters, instructions on how to fake video calls, and copy and paste responses that allow a scammer to cultivate a manufactured romance one text at a time.
He would send me a song every day that was, of course, a love song. Then say how much he loved me and all this stuff. And
You thought you were talking to your future husband. In reality, you were talking to a script that the scammers share with each other.
mm-hmm.
There's breaking the bank, and then there's breaking your heart.
Yeah, and both of that happened.
To know that foreign scammers, foreign operatives are using your name and likeness to victimize Americans.
Well, it's heart-wrenching to me, mainly because of the impact it has on individuals who don't deserve to be scammed in the way and hurt in the way they are.
General Fraser swore an oath that his clones did not. All enemies, foreign or domestic. Now he's facing artificial patriots, fake generals, and real victims.
We got a call from a lady who said, "Can you do anything to help my mom, because she's continued to contribute?" And she called my wife back. Her mom, if I remember right, had killed herself because she'd given her whole life savings, 200,000 euros, to these scammers.
There's literally a body count.
Yes.
We called several numbers victims told us their scammers used.
Hi, this is Brendan Keefe. I'm an investigative reporter. We want to find out why you're scamming people, why you're pretending to be a military officer in the United States when you're actually overseas.
The text reply, send gift cards, then I will give you the whole story. We don't pay for the truth, even when others have paid for the lies.
The U.S. Army says it reports hundreds of fake military officer pages every day. Facebook and Instagram's parent company, Meta, call these AI image pages engagement bait. The company says it's a game of whack-a-mole with new fake clones of real generals popping up faster than Meta can take them down. Coming up, body cameras are rolling, but is anyone watching? How artificial intelligence is helping catch both the good and bad sides of law enforcement. After the break. Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to Investigate TV Plus on all social media platforms. Body camera footage is meant to protect you and police officers, but it's often only reviewed when there's a complaint or during random checks. Now some departments are using artificial intelligence to analyze every piece of video, which could save careers and lives. Greg Merriweather in Baton Rouge put the tech to the test.
An Oxford police officer is chasing a guy, speeding through the back streets and right on procedure with something this dangerous. The officer is relaying every move, so dispatchers are aware of exactly where the chase is at any given time. Now, while dispatchers and other officers follow the chase, something else will follow every move too. Artificial intelligence. The Oxford Police Department uses a program called Trulio. It's used to monitor all of its officers' body cameras, every officer, every body camera video, every day.
It's actually been really refreshing. We're actually assessing every single video clip that is uploaded into our system, and the AI is looking for the things that we have trained the system to look for.
So this, of course, is a high-risk call. It's something the system would obviously flag, but let's say earlier in the day, maybe that same officer got into an argument with a citizen over a simple speeding ticket. This AI technology would flag that too.
I have different criteria that we can flag upon. So of course your things like profanity, or what we call directed profanity, where I may say a curse word versus I'm saying a curse word directly to you or insulting you and using some type of profanity.
And it can pick up on that?
Yes, it's that granular. And then as far as the interactions that we have with the public, if there's a use of force where either we're going hands-on with a subject or there's some type of altercation that breaks out during the course of that video, it flags that. It can also be as granular as to tell when we are actually arresting somebody. And so we have all these cues, and every time these high priority cues are flagged, we get email alerts saying, hey, this officer had this type of interaction, this video is ready to be reviewed.
I'm about to take a shot.
Now, usually by the time body camera footage gets to you or makes it to the news, chances are either something bad has gone down or, at the very least, something controversial.
Give me your hand.
While chiefs and sheriffs usually see these high-profile incidents, the vast majority of body camera footage never gets viewed at all.
Sure, so most people don't realize
Anthony Tassoni is one of the founders of Trulio and the company's CEO. So right now you say about 1% of all body camera footage for police departments and sheriff's departments is actually being looked at or reviewed. With this new AI technology, how much of that would then be looked at?
100% of all the videos get analyzed, and then we curate the most important stuff to the sergeant. So the sergeant's only going to spend 30 minutes to an hour per week reviewing what Trulio surfaced. Now, a lot of what Trulio surfaces is positive behavior, positive interactions, officers collecting civilian gratitude, for example, because we want the officers to be caught doing good. We want them to get recognized for doing a good job. We think that's super important to improve officer morale and recruiting and retention around this country. Imagine doing a job that, you never get thanked for. No one ever recognizes the good work you do.
So we know with the good comes the bad, and often we hear about how that one bad apple can ruin the whole bunch. Tassoni says his AI technology really helps departments catch those apples before the job catches up to them and they start to go bad. Situations like what happened in Memphis, Tennessee. Tyree Nichols died after being beat by what investigators called a rogue squad of officers at the Memphis Police Department. Investigators now say they've uncovered a pattern of bad behavior from these officers that started long ago and just went unchecked for years. Do you think had those Memphis officers been flagged sooner, that down the road it could have saved that young man's life?
100%, I believe that. The 5 officers in Memphis, that wasn't the first time something like that's happened. I guarantee you that. This is a deterioration in professionalism that happened over the course of months and years. Basically, they get away with a little bit at a time because they're unsupervised. And then what forms is what I call cultural rot, in a team or a group like that. And so Trulio would have detected those officers' behavior long before they went down this path and they began acting like this and behaving like this. Trulio could have flagged them early on. It could have given the command staff warning that, hey, these officers are full of risk.
Both large and small departments across the country have signed up for this Trulio AI technology. So how much does it cost? Tassoni says for an average size agency of about 100 officers or so, it's around $30,000 a year. Now, back in Oxford, Alabama, their police department has about 75 sworn officers.
It's the small town feel, but we still have a good bit of business.
Oxford itself sits along the interstate just about halfway between Birmingham and Atlanta. So while it still has that small town feel, something similar to, let's say, Hammond, it still has its fair share of situations. Officer Tyler Peck told me he embraces the fact that AI is monitoring his moves.
Hello. Sorry about that. No problem.
In his interactions.
Most of the time before we get called in for a complaint or anything now, they've already watched the body camera. It definitely protects the public in that if it can sense a pattern of behavior from an officer, whether he's talking down to the public or anything like that, it can be addressed a lot quicker than if it has to be found out by a supervisor or something like that, because not everybody calls and complains whether they're treated correctly or not. And if you can nip those problems in the bud, everybody knows the saying, a few bad apples ruin the bunch.
So we're dealing with literally gigs and gigs of videos a day. There's no physical way that even if we assign all of our employees to review other people's videos, that we can do that effectively and still do the things that we're called to do as a law enforcement agency. And now we can say that each and every video is being reviewed as soon as it's being uploaded to the servers, which by hand would be impossible.
We strongly believe that the data is very valuable. We should not be watching only 1% of it. We should not be only watching the occurrences that are horrific. If I'm at a department and I'm the chief, I want this data to show my community, to show my friends and my family that we're the good guys. We're doing a good job. The vast majority of us are out there doing a great job. And with Trulio, they can have that data. And for the 1 or 2% of officers that are struggling, for me, it really comes down to either a wellness issue or coaching.
More than 20 departments across the country are either in the process of signing up for or are already using this technology.
Oh, 100% her voice. 100% her voice. It was never a question of, who is this? Or it was completely her voice. It was her inflection. It was the way she would have cried. I never doubted for 1 second it was her.
Up next, how scammers used artificial intelligence to clone the voice of a 15-year-old girl to stage a fake kidnapping. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download. Just a few seconds of a voice sample is all it takes for a scammer to clone that person's voice and use it to trick unknowing family members. And the AI technology used to pull this scheme off is rapidly improving. Susan Campbell in Arizona spoke with a mother who went through that frightening situation after receiving a call from who she thought was her teenage daughter.
The phone number was unfamiliar. Jennifer DeStefano almost let it go to voicemail. But her 15-year-old was out of town skiing. Maybe there had been an accident.
I pick up the phone and I hear my daughter's voice and it says, "Mom," and she's sobbing. And I said, "What happened?" And she's like, "Mom, I messed up." And she's sobbing and crying. And then I hear a man's voice say, "Put your head back, lie down." And then I'm like, wait, what's going on? And this man gets on the phone and he's like, "Listen here, I've got your daughter. This is how it's gonna go down. You call the police, you call anybody. I'm gonna pop her stomach so full of drugs, I'm gonna have my way with her and I'll drop her off in Mexico." And at that moment, I just start shaking. I'm like, what? And in the background, she's going, "Help me, Mom, please, help me," and bawling.
And you have absolutely no doubt in your mind that that was her voice.
Oh, 100% her voice, 100% her voice. It was never a question of, who is this? Or it was completely her voice. It was her inflection. It was the way she would have cried. I never doubted for 1 second it was her. That's the freaky part that really got me to my core.
But the 15-year-old never said any of it. It was just a clone created by artificial intelligence.
You can no longer trust your ears.
Subaro Kamampati is a computer science professor at Arizona State who specializes in AI. He says voice cloning technology is rapidly improving.
Now there are ways in which you can do this with just 3 seconds of your voice. So with the 3 seconds, it can come extremely close to how exactly you sound.
And you don't even need any special equipment.
I chose a free program for a test, and I'm not actually talking.
It's a new toy, and I think there could be good uses, but certainly there can be pretty worrisome uses too.
You got to slow down and diffuse the situation.
The FBI's Dan Mayo says scammers who use voice cloning often find their prey on social media.
They're going to be looking for public profiles that have as much information as possible on you. And when they get a hold of that, they're going to dig into you.
The Federal Trade Commission says scammers will often ask their victims to wire money, send cryptocurrency, or pay the ransom with gift cards. Once the money is gone, it's almost impossible to get it back.
The phone number's coming from an area code that you're not familiar with. That should be one red flag. Second red flag, international numbers. Sometimes they will call from those as well. Third red flag, they will not allow you to get off the phone and talk to your significant other, right? That's a problem.
The person who had supposedly kidnapped Jennifer's daughter demanded money. He started at $1 million.
I was like, that I don't have $1 million. I'm like, fine, whatever, just don't hurt my daughter. Then he wants $50,000.
Jennifer kept him talking. She was at her other daughter's dance studio, surrounded by worried moms who wanted to help. One called 911, another called Jennifer's husband. Within just 4 minutes, they confirmed her daughter was safe.
She was upstairs in her room going, what? What's going on?
What's going through your mind that second?
Then I get angry, obviously, with these guys because this is not something you play around with.
Wave of relief, though, I'm sure.
I literally just sat down and just broke down crying.
Tears for all of the what-ifs. The fear, the relief. It all just seemed so real.
The FBI believes a lot of these calls are not reported. Even if you don't lose money, the agency wants to know about it. The more information they have about it, the better their chances of spotting trends and catching these scammers. The QR code on your screen will take you to the FBI's reporting page. Coming up, a new study finds nearly half of Americans say money, at least occasionally, has a negative impact on their mental health. We share tips to help you manage that stress. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Investigate TV. You can catch stories and full episodes. Money is really straining a lot of Americans' mental health. In this week's Watching Your Wallet, reporter Rachel DePompa talks to the people behind a new bank rate study on this very topic and what you can do to counteract money stress.
A new study by Bankrate finds nearly half of adults say money, at least occasionally, has a negative impact on their mental health. Ted Rossman with Bankrate says money was the #1 factor driving this stress, even more than current events or relationships. And when it comes to money stress, he says inflation was the #1 thing people said was driving this negative sentiment.
It's very understandable. The cumulative effect of inflation has been really significant these past couple of years. You think about a collection of household expenses that costs about 20% more now than it did 2 years ago. This is a huge talking point for the election. It's really a big part of how people perceive their financial well-being, because a lot of the economic data is actually pretty good.
He says this is the longest stretch of sub 4% unemployment we've had since the late 60s. Consumer spending has been robust, but he says people don't feel good about the economy because inflation is gobbling up whatever wage gains they're making.
But often when we worry about things, it's because we feel out of control. I think a way to take some of that control back is to put a plan together. Make a plan. The tactics are going to vary depending on what the issue is. If it's credit card debt, for example, maybe get a 0% balance transfer card and use that as a tailwind to pay down your debt.
Rossman says if you want to save or invest more, set up automatic transfers on payday so you don't have to think about it. You can take on a side hustle. You can sell stuff you don't need anymore. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Maybe that's a professional financial advisor. Maybe it's a reputable nonprofit credit counseling agency, or maybe it's just a friend or family member who can cheer you on along the way.
And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV Plus Weekend. Hope to see you next week.